Storing drinks on a boat takes some thought. You don't want pinhole leaks or broken wine bottles to ruin your day. Hi, I'm Carolyn Sherlock, and on this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast, I give you some of my favorite tricks for keeping drinks safe on board. Today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by SpotlessStainless.com, the safe, fast, and easy way to remove rust and protect your marine stainless. Brush on, wait 30 minutes, and rinse off this environmentally friendly gel. No scrubbing required. Brush on spotless stainless, remove rust. It's that simple. Use coupon code BG20 for an exclusive 20% discount on your order. SpotlessStainless.com. Make stainless sparkle. Okay, so today let's talk about storing drinks on a boat. Your stock of drinks takes up a lot of space on a boat, even before you put them in a refrigerator or cooler. In 6 years of living in the tropics, where we went through a lot of drinks, I learned a few things about storing drinks on a boat. Pop and beer cans are generally very thin outside the U.S., sometimes even in the U.S. Just the cans rubbing against each other or tiny drops of salt water, maybe from when you brought them aboard, can make tiny pinholes in the cans. There's 3 ways to combat this. Wash and dry cans when you bring them on board, both to get any saltwater droplets off and to get any dirt off. You'll probably be surprised at how dirty cans get if they're not in totally enclosed cases. Second, store the cans in solid bins. They need to be in bins even if they're inside lockers. In this way, even if one does develop a hole, the mess is contained and it's much easier to clean up. And third, fill any extra spaces in the bins with plastic bubble wrap, rags, towels, or whatever else you have to limit the movement in the cans. Not only will they be less likely to develop pinholes, they'll also be a lot quieter as the boat moves. Now, what about Gatorade, Crystal Light, and other non-carbonated drinks? They can usually be found both pre-mixed in bottles and in powder form. Your water situation will determine what's best for you. If you have a very limited water supply and need to supplement it with bottled drinks, buy pre-mixed and store the bottles in the same way as pop cans. Now, if you have enough water, it's better to buy powdered mix instead of pre-mixed bottles. It's lighter, smaller, and easier to stow. To store powdered mix that comes in pouches, I found that I had to put the pouches inside Ziplocs or food storage containers, as moisture would penetrate the foil pouches. Even if some moisture does make the powder clumpy, it's still safe to use unless it smells moldy or turns an off color. Now, how about wine bottles? They can seem impossible to store on a boat, but many cruisers do it successfully. Actually, you can use the same technique for anything in glass bottles and thin-walled plastic bottles that seem fragile. For some reason, cooking oil always seems to come in flimsy bottles. The first step is to put the bottle in a tube sock. You can then put it into a storage bin. Of course, solid, so if the bottle should break, the mess is contained. And then pack other items and padding around it so it won't move. Now, we wanted a little more assurance so the bottles wouldn't shift with the motion of the boat. And so we made one locker into what I called an upright wine rack. To do this, we took a length of 4-inch PVC and cut it into 8-inch long sections. And these we glued together standing upright in sort of a honeycomb pattern that just fit inside the locker. We put the bottles of wine into tube socks and stuck one in each PVC tube. Even though there's a little bit of space between the bottle and the PVC, the sock pads it well enough that we never had one break. And they're quiet as well. Box drinks, such as milk, juice, and wine in boxes, are great on a boat for several reasons. They'll last about 6 months in tropical heat, up to a year in more temperate climates. They don't have to be refrigerated until they're opened. And they are easy to stow. They can be tucked in lots of odd-sized places. There's virtually no risk of breakage. And since they're square, they make efficient use of space. The only real issue in storing drink boxes is to remember where you put all of the boxes and to be sure to use the oldest ones first, not the boxes that are more convenient. It takes a bit to get used to the new rules for storing drinks, but in time, the procedures for storing drinks on a boat will just be second nature. Thanks for listening to the Boat Galley Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe in your podcast app and tell your friends about us too.